Rain lashed down with an unrelenting fury. Thunder roared like an angry beast. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the dark, stormy night in brief, blinding flashes. The old oak trees swayed violently in the wind, their branches creaking and groaning under the strain. It was as if the very forest was alive, fighting against the tempest. It was a night to be inside by the fire, safe and sound. The warmth of the flames offered comfort and security, but not for John. He was lost, alone, and afraid. The darkness of the forest seemed to close in around him, the rain soaking him to the bone. John had been driving home from a late meeting when the storm hit. The rain came down in sheets, making it nearly impossible to see the road ahead. His car slid off the slick road, plunging into a ditch. The impact was sudden and jarring, leaving him momentarily stunned. Dazed, he climbed out and saw the dark, menacing woods looming before him. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, their shadows dancing in the lightning's glow. He had no choice but to enter. The forest was his only hope of finding shelter and safety. He pulled his thin jacket tighter against the biting wind, shivering as the cold seeped into his bones. Each gust seemed to carry a guttural growl, a whisper of something unseen. The forest was alive with eerie sounds, adding to his growing sense of dread. He pushed on, desperate to escape the storm and find help. Every step was a struggle, the mud sucking at his boots, the wind pushing him back. Little did he know, he was walking into a nightmare. The forest held secrets, and John was about to uncover them, whether he wanted to or not. The forest was alive. Twisted branches clawed at him like skeletal fingers. The air hung heavy with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Each step forward seemed to take him further into a primeval world. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like tormented screams. Shadows danced in the flickering moonlight that pierced the dense canopy. The forest seemed to be watching him, judging his every move. John stumbled over gnarled roots and fallen branches. Fear gnawed at his insides. He had heard tales of this forest, whispers of ancient evils and things that haunted the night. He pushed those thoughts away, trying to focus on finding his way out. He walked for what felt like hours. Every direction looked the same. Towering trees, tangled undergrowth, and the ever-present darkness. The storm showed no sign of abating. If anything, it seemed to be intensifying. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course not. He cursed his luck, his fear turning to panic. He had to get out of this forest. He had to find shelter. He had to survive the night. A sudden movement in the shadows made him jump. He spun around, his heart pounding in his chest. It was just a raccoon, its eyes glowing in the darkness. He let out a shaky breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. As he continued his trek, the shadows seemed to take on a life of their own. They twisted and writhed at the edge of his vision, always just out of focus. He thought he saw figures lurking in the darkness, but when he turned to face them, they were gone. His mind was playing tricks on him. He was tired, scared, and soaked to the bone. He needed to find shelter. And fast. The thought of spending the night exposed to the elements and whatever else lurked in the darkness was unbearable. Then, through the driving rain, he saw it. A faint light, flickering in the distance. Hope surged through him. It had to be a house, a cabin, anything. He stumbled towards it, his legs heavy with exhaustion. As he drew closer, he heard voices. Whispers carried on the wind, too low to make out words. They seemed to be coming from the direction of the light. Were they human or something else? He hesitated, fear warring with his desperation for shelter. What if the voices belonged to something sinister? What if he was walking into a trap? But he was out of options. He had to take the chance. He pushed forward, his hand gripping the small pocket knife he carried for emergencies. It wouldn't be much use against whatever lurked in this forest, but it was all he had. The light grew brighter as he approached. The whispers intensified, swirling around him like a vortex of fear. He could almost make out words now, but they were distorted, inhuman. He emerged into a small clearing. The source of the light came into view, a dilapidated cabin, its windows dark and hollow. On the porch, two glowing eyes pierced the darkness, fixed on him with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. John froze, his breath catching in his throat. The eyes blinked slowly, their owner hidden in the shadows. A low growl emanated from the porch. sending a primal fear surging through him. He had stumbled upon something dangerous, he realized, something ancient and hungry. The creature on the porch stepped forward, revealing itself in the dim light. It was a dog, a massive wolfhound, its black fur matted and dripping with rain. It snarled, showing rows of sharp teeth. John raised his hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "Easy," he said, his voice trembling. "I'm not here to hurt you." The dog continued to snarl, its eyes never leaving him. Then, a voice came from inside the cabin. "Fang, stand down." The voice was gruff, but with a hint of warmth. The dog, Fang, lowered its head slightly, but didn't take its eyes off John. An old man stepped out onto the porch. He was tall and gaunt, with a long white beard and piercing blue eyes. He wore simple, worn clothes and leaned heavily on a gnarled walking stick. "What brings you to my neck of the woods on a night like this, son?" he asked, his voice raspy but kind. John explained his predicament, the car crash, the storm, the fear. The old man listened patiently, nodding his head. "You're lucky Fang found you," he said. "This forest doesn't take kindly to strangers. Come on in, get out of this weather!" John stepped cautiously onto the porch. Fang watched him intently, but the growl had subsided. The old man ushered him inside, leading him to a cozy room with a crackling fireplace. He offered John dry clothes and a warm meal. As John ate, the old man introduced himself as Silas and explained that he had lived in the forest his entire life, a hermit who preferred the company of nature to that of people. John felt a sense of unease despite Silas's hospitality. The whispers he had heard, the glowing eyes, the menacing dog, something about this forest, about this cabin, felt deeply unsettling. As the night wore on, Silas told John stories of the forest, stories that seemed to come alive with every word he spoke, tales of ancient spirits and creatures of darkness that roamed the woods, unseen by most but felt by all who dared to enter. John listened, captivated and terrified in equal measure, his heart pounding with every eerie detail. He realized that Silas wasn't just a hermit living in isolation, he was a guardian of sorts, a protector of the delicate balance between the human world and the ancient mysteries of the woods. He also realized that the whispers he had heard earlier were not figments of his imagination. They were real, the voices of the forest itself, communicating with Silas, warning him of John's presence. The forest seemed to sense danger, its whispers growing louder and more urgent. But it was one story in particular, told as the fire crackled low and the shadows danced on the walls, that chilled John to the bone, making him shiver despite the warmth of the fire. It was the story of a traveler, much like himself, who had stumbled upon the cabin seeking shelter from the unforgiving night. The traveler had been desperate, lost, and cold, hoping to find refuge in the mysterious cabin. Silas, however, had not been as welcoming then, his demeanor dark and uninviting. He had been corrupted by the darkness that lurked in the forest, his mind twisted by the malevolent whispers. The whispers had driven him to madness, filling his thoughts with sinister intentions. The traveler had never been seen again, swallowed by the darkness of the forest, leaving behind only a chilling tale of caution. John woke with a start, the fire reduced to embers. The room was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you shiver uncontrollably. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of a nightmare that felt all too real. The cabin was deathly silent. Silas was gone, so was Fang. Panic surged through him like a tidal wave. He had to get out, run, escape the clutches of this cursed forest. He scrambled to his feet, grabbing his belongings with trembling hands. Every shadow seemed to move. Every creak of the wooden floorboards felt like a threat. As he fumbled for the doorknob, he noticed something on the table. It was a small wooden carving, a grotesque figure with glowing red eyes, just like Fang's. The eyes seemed to follow him, piercing through the darkness, making his skin crawl. He could almost hear Fang's growl echoing in his ears, and beneath it, a note scrawled in a shaky hand. "You should have stayed lost." The words sent a chill down his spine, colder than the night air. John didn't wait another second. He could feel the weight of the forest pressing in on him, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. He flung open the door and ran, the whispers of the forest swirling around him, urging him onward. The trees seemed to close in, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to grab him. His breath came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. He didn't stop running until he reached the edge of the woods, the first rays of dawn painting the sky with a sickly yellow light. The forest behind him seemed to sigh, as if disappointed that he had escaped its grasp. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, his body trembling with exhaustion and fear. He never looked back, but the fear remained, a chilling reminder of the night he spent in the cabin with Silas, and the terrifying truth he learned about the haunted forest. The memory of the glowing eyes and the eerie whispers would haunt him forever, a constant reminder to never look back.
Deep in the heart of the countryside lies a place shrouded in mystery and fear, the Whispering Woods. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, their eyes darting around as if afraid to attract its attention. Legend has it the woods are cursed. They say the trees whisper secrets, dark secrets, secrets of the lost and the forgotten. Those who dare enter often lose their way. Some say the woods shift and change, disorienting travelers. Others believe something more sinister lurks within, something that preys on the fear of those who trespass. The wind carries a chill as it rustles through the leaves. Whispers seem to dance on the breeze. Are they warnings or invitations? One thing is certain, the Whispering Woods hold an ancient power, a power that both terrifies and beckons the curious soul.
The woods were not always a place of fear and sorrow. Legend tells of a small village nestled among the ancient trees, a peaceful community that lived in perfect harmony with nature. But their tranquility was shattered by an unknown and sinister force. One by one, villagers began to mysteriously disappear, their fates unknown. Some whispered of a deadly plague. Others spoke of a malevolent spirit. The village priest claimed the woods themselves were turning against them. Panic spread like wildfire. The remaining villagers abandoned their beloved homes. They fled, seeking refuge from the unseen terror that relentlessly stalked them. The village fell into ruin, slowly reclaimed by the forest. All that remains are crumbling stone foundations and the whispers of a tragedy long past.
Over the years, countless souls have ventured into the Whispering Woods, drawn by curiosity or a thirst for adventure. Many were never seen again. Their disappearances remain unsolved mysteries, fueling the legends and deepening the woods' sinister reputation. Some stories speak of hikers straying from the path, their calls for help swallowed by the dense undergrowth. Others tell of experienced trackers vanishing without a trace, leaving behind only their abandoned gear. The locals whisper of a young couple who wandered into the woods, madly in love. They sought a secluded spot for a romantic picnic. Only their picnic basket was ever found, its contents scattered and undisturbed, as if abandoned in haste. Their fate remains a haunting reminder of the wood's unforgiving nature.
While many have vanished within the wood's shadowy embrace, a fortunate few have emerged from its depths. Their tales, often fragmented and tinged with terror, offer glimpses into the wood's true nature. One survivor spoke of an oppressive silence that descended upon him. He claimed the air grew heavy, making it difficult to breathe, as if an unseen force were pressing down on him. He described feeling watched, followed by something he couldn't see but could sense lurking just beyond the trees. Another told of hearing his name whispered on the wind. The voice, he claimed, was not human. It was cold, ancient, and filled with a malice that chilled him to his core. He fled in terror, the whispers chasing him to the very edge of the woods.
Section 5. A Journey into the Unknown, a Personal Exploration. Intrigued by the tales and driven by a thirst for the unknown, I decided to experience the Whispering Woods for myself. The stories I had heard painted a picture of a place both enchanting and foreboding, a realm where reality and myth intertwined. Armed with a compass, a map, and a healthy dose of trepidation, I stepped across the threshold, leaving behind the familiar world of sunlight and reason. Each step felt like a journey into another world, a world where the rules of nature seemed to bend and twist. The air grew noticeably cooler as I ventured deeper into the woods. The temperature drop was almost immediate, as if the forest itself was a living entity, breathing a cold, ancient breath. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and shifted with the slightest breeze. These shadows seemed to have a life of their own, creating an ever-changing mosaic of light and dark. The forest floor was a tapestry of decaying leaves and gnarled roots, a testament to the wood's age and untamed power. Each step I took was cushioned by the soft, damp earth, adding to the sense of walking through a place untouched by time. A profound silence hung in the air, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the rustle of leaves. This silence was almost tangible, wrapping around me like a heavy cloak, making every sound seem amplified and significant. It was a silence that both captivated and unnerved me, amplifying every sound and heightening my senses. Every rustle, every distant call of a bird seemed to carry a hidden meaning, a whisper of the forest's secrets waiting to be uncovered. The deeper I went, the more I felt like an intruder in a world that was both beautiful and terrifying.
Section 6. The Forest Floor, a Tapestry of Shadows and Secrets. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the path beneath my feet grew fainter, almost as if it were being swallowed by the forest itself. The trees pressed closer, their branches intertwining overhead like grasping claws, creating a canopy that blocked out the sky and cast the forest floor into perpetual twilight. The forest floor became a treacherous maze of exposed roots and moss-covered stones, each step a potential hazard that could send me sprawling. Each step I took was deliberate and cautious, fearful of twisting an ankle or losing my footing in the uneven terrain. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of an unseen bird. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying wood, a pungent aroma that spoke of the cycle of life and death constantly playing out within the forest. It was a reminder of the forest's ancient and unyielding nature. I noticed strange symbols carved into the trunks of some trees, ancient markings that seemed both familiar and utterly alien. They were intricate and detailed, telling stories that I could not fully comprehend. Were they left by the villagers who once called this place home? The remnants of their lives now swallowed by the relentless march of nature? Or were they the work of something else? Something that had been here long before any human had set foot in these woods, something older and far more sinister. The forest seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a dark and ancient presence that watched and waited, its secrets hidden in the shadows.
Despite the lack of any visible threat, a growing sense of unease began to creep over me. The forest, once a place of solace and tranquility, now seemed to harbor an unseen menace. It started as a prickling sensation at the back of my neck, as if I were being watched by unseen eyes. The feeling was subtle at first, almost ignorable, but it grew stronger with each passing moment. The feeling intensified with each step I took, evolving into a palpable sense of dread that settled deep in the pit of my stomach. My mind raced with thoughts of what could be lurking in the shadows, hidden from view but ever present. The hairs on my arms stood on end, and my heart pounded in my chest. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent a jolt of fear through my body. My senses were on high alert, straining to identify the source of my unease. I scanned the darkness, searching for any sign of movement, any hint of what might be out there. The silence of the woods, once captivating, now felt oppressive. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen, something inevitable and terrifying. As if the very air were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The tension was almost tangible, a heavy weight pressing down on me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, stalked by something unseen that lurked just beyond the periphery of my vision. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an overwhelming sense of dread. The overwhelming sense of dread finally became too much to bear. Panic welled up inside me, urging me to flee. I turned to retrace my steps, my pace quickening with each stride. The forest floor, once a source of fascination, now seemed to conspire against me. Roots reached out like grasping claws, threatening to trip me. The once familiar path seemed to twist and turn, leading me further into the wood's shadowy embrace. I stumbled and fell, scraping my hands on the rough bark of a fallen tree. Panic threatened to consume me as I struggled to my feet and pressed on. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out all other sounds. I didn't dare slow down, not even for a moment.
I emerged from the whispering woods breathless and shaken. My clothes were torn, my skin scratched and bleeding, but I had escaped. I had looked into the face of the unknown and lived to tell the tale. As I stumbled back into the sunlight, I couldn't help but look back at the dark, imposing silhouette of the woods. Had it been my imagination? Or had I truly experienced something sinister lurking within its depths? The experience left me with more questions than answers. What had happened to the missing villagers? What was the source of the whispers I had heard? And what was the unseen presence that had filled me with such primal terror?
The Whispering Woods remains a place of mystery, an enigma that continues to fascinate and terrify in equal measure. Its secrets remain hidden, guarded by the ancient trees and the whispers that dance upon the wind. Perhaps some mysteries are not meant to be solved. Perhaps the Whispering Woods serve as a reminder of the vastness of the unknown and the importance of respecting the power of the natural world. But for those who are drawn to the allure of the unknown, the question remains, will you heed the call of the Whispering Woods? Will you dare to venture into its depths and face the secrets that lie hidden within? The choice, dear reader, is yours.